Om. 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 Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trilokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Dalshitam Yena, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Vedyadravinam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai. Yata sarvani bhutani pradibhanti stithani cha yatraivo pashamam yanti tasmai satyatmane namaha. So where are we in our text?
We're in chapter 26 on verse 22, 23 at the bottom of page 272.
Got it? Oh no. 25, 20, sorry, 22, 23. Okay.
22, 23.
We're in the story still of Chudala, and where we are, just to catch us up, she has acquired siddhis. She went through the sky, checked on her husband, Shikadvaja, who is out in the forest doing ritual, and he still found no peace, knowing that he won't listen to a woman, let alone his wife. So she's going to transform herself into a young Brahmin, and her name is Kumbha Pot. And she's given like a fake biography of how, as Kumbha, she came about. Going on. Anandavadite chitte, Shubdhe prana nile sthite, Babhuva tasya tushtasya, Madanas khalitam tada. When the mind was drawn towards or covered by that delight, and when the vital wind or bioenergy was agitated, then to that gratified one, there occurred the emission of vital energy due to passion. Yes, so this is a poetic statement of erotic fact. Going on. Rajavacha tadrishopi bahugnyopi jivanmuktopyasau munihi katham evam vidham bruhi prapto madanavashyatam. The king said, even though that sage was like that, possessed of great knowledge and liberated while living, tell me how he came under the control of Cupid or passion of such kind. Yes, well, if he's this illumined sage and a great tapaswan, how come he came under the sway of erotic passion? Going on. The story is the sage got attracted to some woman in the water. Is that yeah. Okay. That's where we are. So Kumba's talking about how supposedly, air quotes, he came about. So the sage is being attracted to a woman, and this is to tell us, to teach a lesson. It's not so much historical fact.
Right.
So how is it that a sage can be smitten by lust? Going on.
Kumbha uvacha swarupe nirmale satye nimesham api nimesham api vismrite drishyam ullasamapnoti vrishiva payodharaha. Kumbha said, when one's natural state, which is stainless and real, is forgotten even for a moment, the known or the objects of sense experiences attain splendor. That is, they have their sway, excuse me, just as a rain cloud during the monsoon.
So the lesson here is this. The great calamity for a yogi is inadvertence. Those of us who are studying Atmabodha on Monday nights, in the front piece, before he gets into the text, Swamiji has put the first verse of Brahmagyana Vali, and it starts off, Pratas Marami Hriddhi. He translates it, in the early hours of the morning, I meditate in my heart on Brahman. That Pratas Smarami Kriti repeats over and over again. But Smarami, what does it literally mean?
I remember.
I remember, yes. So do not forget your essential nature. And there's a secret to this that comes from Taittiriya Upanishad. Towards the end, there's a refrain that repeats over and over again. Swadhyaya pravachane swadhyaya pravachane swadhyaya pravachane. What's that mean?
Self-study and also teach other people.
Yes. So we don't forget. Now, when we have sthita prajna, it is not likely that this inadvertence will happen. But, only you can figure that one out.
In this case, sounds like he had like vasana towards beautiful women, I suppose.
Well, and that's a very natural instinct.
Right.
But one of the things that can happen, even when you are firmly rooted in your self-knowledge, and then you study texts like Avadhuta Gita or Ashtavakra Gita, then the Guru says, oh mind, why do you continue to meditate? What are you going to gain by it? You're not going to know any more self. And many people then give up practicing. And then what happens, you reach a place where you don't lose your knowledge, but your bliss starts to fade. And as soon as the bliss starts to fade, then the extroversion of the mind, that's the easy way to get juice. And once the mind begins to extrovert, then we become can, not always, become a fallen yogi. And then we have the rationalization of the Vedanta logically. Oh, my indulgence in the world, it really doesn't matter. It's all illusion. I'm just following my prarabdha. And you find out how much of a rationalization that is if you're suffering.
Mhm.
All you have to do is a little tapas, swadhyaya, prapachanecha. And all of a sudden, oh, why did I forget? So many yogis revel in the halls of Vedanta because it's the highest form of worldly pleasure to continue. Spiritual practices do not add to our knowledge of the self, but it is the highest form of worldly pleasure. It's a devotion, not an attachment thing. It's the parama prema. All right, going on.
Deep question.
Yes.
Remembering my self nature throughout the day, how do I implement it?
If I think I'm a person, I'm deluded. That's far more the important thing. Watch for jiva bhavana. And if jiva bhavana arises, don't indulge it. Immediately renounce it. Is that useful?
Very useful.
The example of the fallen yogi, wouldn't that person, I mean, I guess I can't speculate, but once you have the awareness of the ways in which we suffer, then when we do indulge, I guess not indulge, but when we do operate in the world, when suffering is perceived because of a particular way of acting, there is an immediate response to that suffering, right? Because of the previous.
Depends on the state of the mind. All I know is, like my dear friend Susan, who passed away a couple of years ago, one of her close friends, a fellow named Rafi, was another close disciple of her guru, Dede, the sheikh on the post in Konya. And Dede had given him permission to teach. But then he became an active alcoholic and ended up really, really hurting a lot of people.
Mhm.
We have the situation of when Baba Muktananda was nearing his Mahasamadhi. He delegated Nityananda as his successor. Nityananda, an Indian fellow coming to the West where women are very available, all of a sudden he started to engage and indulge. They ended up throwing him out, and Guru Mai became the leader of the Siddha Yoga tradition. It happens. It happens.
So, Jim, did that
Yes,
person you just mentioned this? So I can't remember the name that starts with N, who came to the West. Did they? So they didn't lose the knowledge of the self,
I've never met the man, so I can't say, but he's probably not.
but you can not lose the knowledge of the self and still indulge and become deluded again.
Why don't you concentrate on your own yoga? What I'm saying here is what the scripture is saying is the danger of inadvertence.
Hmm.
That's the point. So rather than being, I probably should not have mentioned specific people. But for you and me, he's pointing out the danger of inadvertence.
So then the question of why inadvertence would arise is because of some attachment yet to be paid attention to it.
Yeah.
Can I share a thought?
Please.
If mind has a tendency to return to the field that gives it the highest bliss, then there is no such thing as a fallen yogi.
If in fact your mind continues to do that. But right here, what the scripture is talking about, here was a sage, and what he did was return to his lust.
Even if that mind returns to the lust, it will soon be dissatisfied and will return to its yogi.
Is that your direct experience?
I don't want to say that's my direct experience, but I would say that's actually my thought.
That's your thought.
Yeah.
So what I would be careful to get caught up in logic. And instead, let's just hear what the scripture says and apply it to our own yoga.
So I would say that's observation of my own mind.
Pardon me?
That's observation of my own mind, what I shared.
Fine. Fine. So is the conclusion that this sage wasn't realized? Is that what you're saying?
I would say momentarily that person can get distracted, but if the person has the taste, the mind will return to the yoga.
I think you're right. We shall see. Let's see what happens.
Sukha dukkha kalap spando bandho jivasya netarah tadabhavo hi moksha syat iti dvedha vavasthitah. The movement of the divisions called pleasure and grief is the bondage of the individual soul. Nothing else is. Its absence only could be liberation. Thus is the arrangement in two ways.
So let's go on and finish the thought. Going on.
Rajavacha atyudaram mahascharyam vakshitvam vadatam vara किं तु तावत् समासेन तवोत्पत्ति वदाध्यमे तत श्रोष्यामि यत्नेन ज्ञानं गर्भागिरं तव. The king said, best of speakers on spiritual truth, you tell me of a very splendid and great marvel. But tell me now briefly before you proceed about your origin. Thereafter I shall hear carefully your words full of knowledge.
Yes. So what happened to the sage, we don't know. But I think the point that the scripture is saying, which it very clearly says, is be mindful of the trap of inadvertence. And I think you're right, Nilan, that if a yogi gets extroverted into the world, they will experience suffering. And hopefully in time they return to self-reliance. We shall see. Going on.
Kumbhavacha Shirena Purite Kumbhe Munina Viryamarpitam Masat Sampurna Samvanga Kumbhachaham Vinirgitah. Kumbha said, the generative fluid was placed by the sage in a pot filled with milk, and I came out of the pot in a month with all my limbs fully grown.
So that's what happened. He ejaculated into a pot, then he filled it up with milk, and Kumbha came full-bodied out of that pot. Now, mind you, this is Chudala. She's just telling a story. Going on.
Mam pautram vikshya vedhascha chakara jnana paragam tatoham kumbhanamasmi yatha kamam chahamryaham astam esha katha tavat katvam adro karoshikim. Having seen me, the grandson, Brahma, the creator god, made me profoundly learned, or one who has gone to the limit of knowledge. Therefore, I am named Kumbha, literally the pot, and I go about at will. Let this story remain as it is. In the meanwhile, who are you? What do you do in the mountain?
So she said, don't worry about my story, which, by the way, was an allegory, because she's really Chudala. Now Kumbha asks the king, who are you? Let's see what happens.
Raja uvacha sansara bhayabhitatvad nivasami varnantaray shikhidvajoham bhupala tvaktva rajyam iha stitah dukhat gacchami dukhaudam kurvanapi kriyam imam. I dwell inside the forest, afraid of the danger of worldly existence. I am the king Shikhidvaja, staying here, having given up my kingdom. Though performing all these religious rites, I go from sorrow to a multitude of sorrows.
So the operative point here, he has reached that place where he has seen that it's attachment to worldly experiences that's problematic. And what he's done with that, he's become afraid of the world. So he has yet to see its fundamental emptiness. So he's identified as the mumukshu. He has now exchanged the ego state of king for the ego state. I'm a yogi and I need to get somewhere. And he goes from sorrow to sorrow. Going on.
Section 3. Chintamani, the story of Chintamani, the wish-fulfilling gem. Kumbhavacha jnanam hi paramam sheya kaivalyam tena lambhyate alambha jnana drishtinam kriyatu syat parayanam. Kumbha said, knowledge alone is the supreme good or beatitude. By that, kaivalya or perfect isolation, that is detachment of the individual soul from its material coverings and identification with the Supreme Spirit is obtained. But to those who have not obtained the perception of knowledge, religious rite could be the principal object.
Yes. So it's not that religious rites are wrong or bad. It's first then. The religious rites help to purify the mind, but they of themselves do not bestow freedom. That's the point. Going on.
Vasana matra saratvad agyasya sapala kriya jnanino vasana nashat aphala sakala kriyaha. Religious rites or rituals are fruitful to one devoid of knowledge on account of the strength of the totality of his mental impressions. To one possessed of knowledge on account of the destruction of mental impressions, all rituals are unfruitful or useless.
Yes. So they do not provide anything. Now, some yogis of steady wisdom may be seen to be performing a ritual. Let me give you a clear example. So Swami Tapovanam, who was a great jnani, at one point walked from where he lived in Uttarkashi all the way to what's now Pakistan, to the Sharda Temple, which was a very, very famous Devi temple. And in his biography, it talks about him spending several weeks there in religious ritual with the devotees there at the temple. Why did he do it? Well, first of all, out of respect for the people who were there. And it was probably fun. But did he need it? Did he need to do the tapas because he had to expiate Papa? No. But he didn't shun it. When I was in India in 2015 and I was at the ashram of Bhuvaneshwarananda, every night they did arati. And Gurudev would sit there in his chair reading the newspaper while everybody else did arati. He had nothing to be gained by doing it. No rules. Going on.
Yasyajñatvam shayam yati sarvam brahmeti bhavana nodeti vasana tasya prajñasye vam buddhi marao. To one whose ignorance is destroyed by the cognition or direct knowledge, all is Brahman, or the Supreme Spirit. Mental impression does not arise, just as the idea or conception of water does not arise in relation to a sandy desert for a wise man.
Yes. So, for a person with deep abidance in the self, they're no longer afflicted by desires. The extroversion of the mind just doesn't happen. Now, Hafiz, the great Sufi teacher, said that for some, an impression may arise just a little bit, but it's like a dust devil in the desert, not a hurricane. Just goes, and then the wind blows it away. All of these teachings about the Sthita Prajna Purusha, the person of steady wisdom, are never for us to be judging or creating hypotheses about other people. It's, does it apply to myself? If it's useful, groovy. It's not, let it go. Going on.
Sansara tarakam jnanam swam kim ajnanavan sthitah koham katham idam jatam katham va shamyati dhruvam katham bandha katham moksha iti prashnan udaharan para vara vidam padan kasmat rajanne sevase. Knowledge protects or delivers one from the course of worldly existence. Why do you remain spiritually ignorant? Who am I? How was this objective universe born? How does this cease surely? How is bondage produced? How is liberation obtained? Thus uttering questions or making inquiry, O king, why do you not serve or follow the feet of the knowers of the nearer and the furthest bank of this ocean of worldly existence?
So he's caught up in ritual, and here Kumbha says, ask the important questions. Ask the important questions. Who am I? What is this world? How has it come about? What is my bondage? How do I get out of it completely? Going on.
Rajavacha Aho nu bodhitosmyadhya Tvam me mitram guru pita Yat udarattamam vetsi Yasmin jnate na sochate Bhavami nirvrito yena Tat brahmopadishashu me. The king said, Ah, I have indeed been instructed by you today. You are my friend, teacher, and father. Teach me immediately that Brahman, which you know as the most exalted, knowing which one does not grieve, and by which I shall be satisfied.
So he's open to hearing it from Kumbha. Mind you, he wasn't open to hearing it from Chudala. Going on.
Kumbhavacha Yadyupadaya Vakyoham Rajarshe Tatvadami Te Anyatha Nekada Proktam Api Syat Viphalam Vachah. Kumbha said, Kingly sage, if I am one whose words are acceptable, then I shall tell you. Otherwise, though explained in various ways, the words can be fruitless or ineffectual.
Yes. So in many ways, the locus of the awakening lies with the student, not the teacher. If the student is ready, almost any teacher will be efficacious. If the student is not ready, Lord Shiva himself cannot awaken. So after his, I think it was at 18 years, he's been in the forest. Hopefully now he has some chitta shuddhi, some purity of mind. And let's see if he's open to being able to receive the teaching from Kumbha. Going on.
Sarva Shastrartha Tvatvajna Asit Kaschit Muni Pura Ananta Yatna Samsadhye Sa Chintamani Sadhane Ativa Yatnavan Bhutva Hastaprapyam Dadarshtam. In former times, there was a certain ascetic who was the knower of the true meaning of all the scriptures. Having become very diligent in the attainment of Chintamani, the fabulous gem yielding to its possessor all desires, which ought to be accomplished by endless effort, he saw that gem easily accessible to the hand.
So he does this very special ritual where he's able to acquire this magic gem, the Chintamani. So let's see what happens. He's well versed in the scripture, not necessarily a man of knowledge. Let's find out.
Kim tu sanshayamapanno no jagraha manim tada aham alpatapa sadhu varako manusha kila siddhaya katham ayanti mam abhagyaika bhajanam iti tasmin sthite mudhe yato mani adrishyatam. But, fallen into doubt, he did not seize the gem at that time. I am one with little penance to my credit, an ascetic, a wretched or unfortunate person, and indeed human. How do accomplishments or prosperity come to me, the repository of only misfortunes? When that stupid man stood thus, the gem became invisible.
Yes. So, of course, the Chintamani is a metaphor for my knowledge of the self. So we turn aside from the self and instead go after the pieces of broken colored glass, which is the world. Going on.
So in this case, it sounds like he was having low self-esteem in some way.
Sounds like it to me. And, one of the things Ramana Maharshi said, after we've given up the world, ego's last strategy is to clothe itself in the path itself. I'm identified as the yogi. I'm identified as the mumukshu. Or even more insidious, I'm identified as a knower of Brahman. And it's still an ego state. So there's always, am I doing it right? Oh, I've fallen short. And then we deceive ourselves, we deceive others, we're caught up in looking good, all these sorts of things. At the moment of realization, what the yogi exclaims is Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. Not I'm a knower of Brahman. So here the yogi is all caught up. I'm a crappy yogi. Going on.
एष भूय क्रियायत्नं कुर्वन् रत्नेन्द्रसाधने ददर्शात् कचद्रूपं काचखण्डम् अखण्डितम्. This man, again taking the effort of rituals in the attainment of the king of gems, saw afterwards an unbroken piece of glass shining in appearance.
As I was saying, now he's getting attracted to fake value. Again, this is the mind extroverting into the world. Going on.
Tata tam mani adaya praktanim sa shriyam jahau sarvam chintamane asmat prapyate kim dhanai iti. Then, taking that gem-like glass, he relinquished his former wealth, saying thus, everything is obtained from this gem, Chintamani. What is the use of riches?
So here he is attached to and attracted to the phony gem, the piece of glass. That's the person who is identified with being a spiritual person. Going on.
Adayaitam mani mudha shunyakana na mayayau sakacha manita sakacha manina tatra mahatim apadam gatah. Taking this gem-like glass, the stupid man came to a desolate forest. There he fell into great danger on account of that gem-like glass.
So he thinks the gem's going to do stuff for him and it doesn't. So what does that mean? When I think getting what I want is going to make me happy, karma, krodha. Caught up in craving, it impels me into ego-prompted activity. And remember, worldly pleasure and worldly suffering are the same thing. And the end result is anger. Not getting what I want. Going on.
Section 4. Vana Gajakhyanam. The story of the forest elephant. Asit Vindhavane Hasti Mahayutha Payuthapah Sabaddho Lohajalena Hastipe Naikadav Kila. There was an elephant in the forest of the Vindhya mountain, which was the head of a large herd of lordly elephants. Once, they say, it was bound by an iron net by the elephant driver.
Poor guy gets caught. Going on.
Kedat Nigadanit भेदम् दन्ताभ्यां तु चकारस तद्दृष्ट्वा तं पुनर्बुद्धम् निश्चित्य तदा पपातात् गजेन्द्रस्य मूर्ध्नि तालतरो अधः अपतत् दुर्मति भूमौ अप्राप्य कर्णशिरः. But on account of distress, the elephant caused the breaking of the fetters with its tusks. Seeing that, and having decided to chain the elephant again at that time, the elephant driver then fell on the head of the lordly elephant, which was beneath a palmyra tree. That evil-minded one fell on the ground without reaching the head of the elephant.
Oh, so the elephant driver tries to capture him by jumping on his head. Oops, falls on the ground. Let's see what happens.
Tampura patitam drishtva mahebha karunam yayau kepi spharaguna santi tevya gajati gateshvapi. Seeing him fallen in front, the great elephant took pity on him. Even among those belonging to the brute kind or among animals, there are some great virtues.
So, even though this guy was out to capture the elephant felt sorry for him. See what the elephant does and what the outcome is.
Dayaya tam parityajya स्वप्रदेशं ययौ गजः गते गजे समुत्थाय पुनः तस्य जिगृक्षया सखातवलयं चक्रे हस्तिपकानने शटः. Leaving him out of pity, the elephant went to its place. When the elephant was gone, having risen up, that wicked elephant driver, with the desire of seizing the elephant again, made a circular excavation in the forest.
So he should have perhaps squished him, but he didn't. Let him go. Now the elephant driver is still going to try to capture the bull elephant. Going on.
Tasmin nipatita khate varano viharan vane tato bhuyo dridam baddha hastapena mahagajah. The elephant, roaming in the forest, fell into that hole. Then that big elephant was again fettered firmly by the elephant driver.
So this time, let's see if he finds a way out. Going on.
Aha nishyat purai vasau yadhyagre patitam ripum tat nalapyasat tat nalapyasata tad dukham gaja katana bandhinam. If it had killed the enemy who had fallen in front, even at first, then the elephant would not have obtained that distress in the form of confinement in the hole.
So the idea here is don't be sloppy or inadvertent about our attachment to worldly things. We're back to that again. Let's see if there's a moral to the story.
Rajavacha Mani Sadhaka Vindhe Bandhanat Suchitam Vada. The king said, "Tell me what is indicated by the one striving for attaining the gem and the bondage of the elephant of the Vindhya mountain."
So explain the allegories to me. Going on.
Kumbhavacha Ratna Sansadhaka Prokta Satvameva Mahipate Viddhi Chintamani Sadho Sarvatyagam Akritriyam. Kumbha said, "King, the one striving to attain the gem, who was spoken of, is only you. Virtuous one, know the gem Chintamani as the spontaneous renunciation of everything."
Yes. So that's the key. The spontaneous renunciation of everything. Going on.
Santyaktam bhavata sarvam sheshita kim tvaha mitaha asampurne parityage drishtaka cha tvaya tapaha. Everything was renounced by you, but the notion of I was left remaining. When the renunciation was incomplete, the glass in the form of austerity was seen by you.
So because the jiva bhavana remained, the ahankriti, he then mistook austerity. He wanted to be a tapaswan. He wanted to be spiritual. He wanted to be an enlightened person. And that's where his striving continued, going on.
Chintamani maya prapta ityalam buddhavanasi nalam bhavan sadho sphatikasyapi khandikam. The gem Chintamani was obtained by me. Thus you have understood in vain, virtuous one. You have not obtained even a piece of crystal.
Yes. So he thinks his spiritual practices are the wish fulfilling gem when they do not satisfy in the end. We're bound by it. It's not, those are the means, not the destination, as it were. Going on.
Yosau vindhyavane hasti sosmin bhuti tale bhavan yau vairagya vivekakhyau tau tasya dashanau stitau. That elephant in the Vindhya forest is you on the surface of this soil. Absence of worldly desires and discrimination are its white teeth.
Yes. So the ego is like a elephant pulling its way through life, and the absence of discrimination. And what was the other one?
Worldly desires.
And the worldly desires are the tusks that get in the way of everything. Going on.
Hasti pastu tvada jnanam asha pashakshta shringala bhogan tatya jata bhagna satvaya bhavati dhruvam. The elephant driver is your spiritual ignorance.
Oh, I confused it. The two tusks are renunciation.
Yeah, renunciation, viveka and vairagya.
Yeah, Vivek and Vairagya. Yeah, that's what the two tusks are. Okay, going on.
The
elephant.
The elephant driver is your spiritual ignorance. The snares of desires constitute the fetter. That bond is surely broken by you renouncing enjoyments.
Yes. But going on.
Tvayi tyajyate tadrajyam ajnanam patitam kritam patam yadi tadajnanam tattvam naha nishyat punaha. When you were leaving that kingdom, the spiritual ignorance was made to fall. At that time, if that ignorance had been killed, then it would not have struck you down or afflicted you again.
So when he gave up the kingdom and his wife, there was the potentiality for mature vairagya. But instead, he picked up the ego identity of being a spiritual person with all that entailed. Going on.
Tapa prapancha khate tvam Patito jnana vairina rajan sarva parityaga kasmat nanushtita tvaya. You have been thrown into the hole, which is the display or world of austerity, by the enemy who is spiritual ignorance. King, for what reason complete renunciation has not been accomplished or practiced by you?
So he's identified and attached to his practices. Going on.
Iti Shri Vasishtha Sangrahe Shikhidwaja Tapo Nama Shadvinga Sargaha. Thus ends the 26th chapter titled The Penance of Shikhidwaja and the Abridgment of Yoga Vasishtha.
Okay, so we're going to go on and we're going to see how she instructs him into real renunciation. Going on.
Saptavinsha Sargaha, chapter 27. Chudalo Padesha, the teaching of Chudala. Section 1. Sarva Tyagaha, complete renunciation. Rajavacha Rajyam Tyaktam Griham Desho Dara Tyaktascha Bandhana Etan Satyajata Sarva Tyaga Kimna Maya Kritaha. The king said, the kingdom was forsaken by me. The house, country, wife, and kinsmen were also abandoned by me. Why has not the renunciation of all have been done by me, giving up all these?
So what else am I supposed to renounce? I thought I'd renounced everything. Going on.
Ete chet mama no sarvam, tat sarvam vanamevahi, tatcha tyajamyaham nunam, iktyuktva drida nishchayah, vane saktim mamarjasau, vashidhira shikhit vajah. If all these are not my all, then the all is surely the forest only. I shall certainly renounce even that. Thus, having spoken, that Shikhidvaja, who had subdued his passions and was courageous or resolute, wiped off his attachment to the forest with firm determination.
So he's going to give up being a forest dweller. His nice little kutia in the forest, wandering, collecting flowers for ritual. He's going to give it all. Let's see what Kumbha says.
Kumbha vacha etat chapi na te sarvam sarvatyaga katham tava. Kumbha said, even this is not your all. How is your renunciation of all accomplished?
It's not enough. So Shikadvaja says, well, let me try something even more extreme. Going on.
Etat chet mama no sarvam me bhajanadikam satyajami ti nishchitya dagdva patradikam tatah raja provacha santushta sarvatyagi sthitomyaham. If this is not my all, I shall renounce all my vessels and the like. Thus, having resolved and having burned all the vessels and other belongings, the satisfied king said, I remain giving up everything.
So now he gives up his instruments for doing ritual, his vessels and stuff. Doesn't even have that anymore. Let's see if Kumbha says it's enough. Going on.
Yavat yavat prahiyante vividha bandha hetavah tavat tavat samayati paramam nirvriti manah digambaro bhavamyeva kim anyat avishishyate. As much as the various causes for bondage are discharged, so much does the mind attain to supreme satisfaction. I shall become one with merely the quarters of the sky for my clothing, that is unclothed. What else is left as a remainder?
So now he becomes sky clad. I don't know if you have been in parts of India where you see a sadhu walking down the street, stark naked, covered with ash. Have either of you seen that?
I have seen it, yeah.
You have?
I have, yeah.
And you?
No, I haven't.
Giving up everything. Maybe that will give me freedom. Being a sky-clad yogi. Going on.
Kumbhavacha sarvam tu na parityaktam mamudha bhinayam kuru eva muktam vacha shrutva kinchit sanchitya bhupatihi shishye sarva santyage teho mansa maya kritihi vinashya cha tamapyadhya sarvatyagi bhavamyaham. But everything has not been renounced. Don't act as in a drama in vain. Having heard the words spoken thus, the king, reflecting a little, said as follows: On the renunciation of everything, the body with the form composed of flesh is still left remaining. And having destroyed even that now, I shall become the renouncer of all.
Yes, so he's gonna commit suicide. He's gonna jump off a cliff, immolate himself, do something. So again, what this is a metaphor for is thinking by beating up the body, mortification of the flesh. I'm going to find freedom. And she says it's not enough. Going on.
Ityakvo thitam enam tu kumbharupabhyu vachasa tyaknenapi sharirena sarvatyago na siddhyati. And to him who had risen, having spoken thus, she, Chudala, in the form of Kumbha, said, Even when the body is given up, the renunciation of all is not accomplished.
Yes, even that is not enough. Well, what else is left? Let's see what happens.
Yenayam kshomyate deho yat bijam janma karmanam tat santyajasi chet tyajyam tat mahatyagavan bhavehe. If you renounce that by which this body is agitated or stirred up, which is the seed or cause of birth and actions, and which is fit to be given up, then you can become one possessing great renunciation.
So, what does she mean? It's the bija vasana, the seed attachment, where I think I am the body. That's what needs to be given up. I think I'm a person. It's the only renunciation necessary. Renounce that, and peace follows. Going on.
Rajavacha kenayam chalyate deha kim bijam janma karmanam kasmin tyakte parityaktam sarvam bhavati me vada. The king said, By whom is this body moved or stirred? What is the seed or cause of birth and actions? Tell me what is that, abandoning which everything is given up.
So now he's getting to the core question. Let's see what Kumbha says.
Kumbhavacha chittam vidhi jagadjalam chittam sarvam iti smritam tasmin sadho parityakte sarvatyago bhavet dhruvam. Kumbha said, Know the mind as constituting the web of the world. The mind is considered as the all. Virtuous one. When that mind is given up, surely there can be complete renunciation.
So that is the thing to be renounced. How do I renounce the mind? It's not about having a frontal lobotomy or a bottle in front of me. It's not a state of insensibility. To give up the mind itself sees its own unreality. I can't think a real thought. The world itself is nitya. And most importantly, no personal sense of self is real. Going on.
Janmanam karmanam vapi chittam bijam udahritam padapa pavane neva deha chittena chalyate. The mind is said to be the seed or cause of births or even karmans or actions. The body is moved or stirred by the mind just as the tree by the wind.
Yes. So the agent is guna and karma, qualities of mind and the force of the past, as it interacts with the society at large, with its karmas. There's no person there. Or you can say, I of myself do no thing, it is the Father within that doeth the work. Ishvara is the agent. Same idea, just framed differently. Point is, any idea of a single individual person, including an individual tapaswan, is an illusion. Going on.
Chitta tyagam vidu sarva tyagam tyaga vido janaha. People who understand renunciation consider the renunciation of the mind or the giving up of thoughts as complete renunciation.
Yes. And again, this is not enfeeblement of the faculties, a state of insensibility. Although there is great value in nirvikalpa samadhi. In nirvikalpa samadhi, when I have those space between the thoughts moments, it becomes very clear of the no thingness of I. But sahaja samadhi means the equipment functioning in the world and the thoughts passing through are void, they're empty, they're unreal. That's the point she's getting at. Going on.
Section 2. Chitta tyaga kramaha. The method of renunciation of the mind or the giving up of thought. Rajavacha chitta syadao swarupam tyam tatyagam api mevada. First, tell me about the inherent nature of the mind and also its renunciation.
Groovy. Let's see.
Kumbha uvacha vasanaiva maharaja swarupam vidhi chetasaha. Kumbha said, King, know that mental impressions or knowledge derived from memory, manifesting as desires and thoughts, constitute the inherent nature of chitta or mind stuff.
Yes. So it's the impressions, the vasanas. Remember, a vasana has two powers. Avarana Shakti, Vikshepa Shakti cha. veiling power. In my mind, I have the non-apprehension of myself as Brahman. Then the projection. I have the misapprehension. I think I'm the body. I think the universe is separate from me. That condition is inherently impoverished. I'm not enough, there's not enough. And then struggle ensues. Shankara says it's the annihilation of the vasanas here and now. That's considered liberation by the wise. Going on.
Aham marthodayo yoyam sarvantaikabhajanam etat chiddha drumasyasya vidhi bijam mahamate. Noble-minded one, know this appearance of the notion of I, which is the repository of all misfortunes, as the seed or origin of the tree of this tree of mind.
Yes, it is the Jiva Bhavana, the Ahankriti, this Chit Chaya, this shadow self, this Chidabhasa, this reflection caught in the mind. That's the source of the problem. Going on.
Etasmat pratamo bhinnat ankuro nubhavakritihi nischayatma nirakaro buddhi ityeva socyate. From this seed or notion of I, which is produced at first, the sprout of the form of cognition or experience, of the nature of determination and devoid of form, which comes into being, that alone is spoken of as buddhi or intellect.
Yes. So once the I thought arises, then the thinking mind emerges. Going on.
Asya buddhaya bhindhanasya yahunkurasya prapinata sankalpa rupini tasya chittanam manobhidaha. The swollen state of this sprout, called buddhi or intellect, which is of the nature of thought or imagination, has the name chitta or mind stuff, and is also called manas or the mind.
Yes. So is it buddhi or is it manas? Don't worry about it. Point is, once that I thought arises, it's inherently got a feeling. I'm not enough, there's not enough. I've been calling it spiritual impoverishment.
And in that case, like the I thought is the belief that that I thought is real too. It has that underlying undercurrent.
Yes. When I think I'm a person.
Yeah.
And then comes, he called Sankalpa translated as imagination. It is that, but it also has the impulsive energy of intention, of will, of wanting going on.
Vasana vividha shakha phalantyo vividham phalam shakha vilavanam gaunam mukhyam mula vivartakam swatma tattva vicharohi chitta bijasya nashakah. The mental impressions or the knowledge derived from memory are the various branches yielding diverse fruits. The cutting off of the branches is subordinate or indirect. The foremost requisite is the cutting off of the roots. The investigation or inquiry into the true nature of one's own self is alone destructive of the seed of the mind.
Yes, so we can work on these various surface attachments that will help lower the volume level in the mind. But it will re-emerge, going back to our discussion earlier. What causes it to cease altogether? when I strike at the root, which is this jiva bhava. Okay, I think that's a good place to stop. It's 9:00. Do we have how many more verses in this chapter? Quite a bit.
Many more, yeah.
Okay, good place to stop. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.